more responses from your cold outreach campaigns is to send multiple follow-up messages. Technically, my perspective on one-to-one outreach is that you shouldn't start reaching out to anyone that you're not going to follow up with until they either give you a yes or a no. If you're not prepared to do that, then you should probably find a different prospect that you are willing to do that with. And the reason for that is simple. If you've had 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 interactions with someone, even if they haven't booked a call yet, technically that person is much warmer and much more, they have some relationship with you. They've seen some of your material. They are a hotter lead than someone who has never heard from you before. Think of it like an ad. You see advertisements from some company or some marketing guru day after day, week after week, month after month, and maybe even year after year. And it's only several years down the road where you finally click on an ad and say, oh yeah, I know this guy, I know, and this is the offer that finally works. Now, I'm not saying you have to email your prospects every day for years, but that's the perspective I want you to have. It's like, if you're going to start reaching out to someone, keep following through with them, because it might not be the first email or the second email or the third email. I hope it is. And these angles should help you get more responses sooner. But the fact is, not everyone replies to the first email, but most people will reply eventually with enough persistence. And one of the ways that you can actually make that happen is to mix and match the outreach angles that you use in order to get a response. Essentially, the idea is, if one thing isn't working, instead of repeating that one thing that's not working, you try something else. So one of the ways to do that is with the actual outreach campaign itself. Other ways of doing that are to change the medium. So you go from cold email to LinkedIn, for example. And you can also change the target individual. Instead of going to the CEO, you go to, say, the director of marketing or the chief operations officer or some other relevant individual. But here we're specifically going to be looking at the outreach campaigns itself. So one really simple way to set this up is to start with the offer that has the most friction, which is the direct offer, or a version of this. It could be the results in advance offer. It could be the piggyback proof version of that, because the piggyback proof offer can be a direct offer. It's really whether you're using your proof or someone else's proof. But some version of a direct offer where you're hoping to get someone on the phone. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you ask for the phone call in the CTA. It might be, you'd be interested in learning more, worth discussing, anything like that. But it is the direct offer, right? That has more friction than any other offer. So you start there and then essentially decrease the amount of friction of every ask that you make. This is not the only way to do this. This is not a hard and fast rule. This is an idea that you can test and see, okay, does this work for you and your offer? You might also start somewhere else. You might just do value vehicles and just do one value vehicle after another. Here's this video, here's this resource, here's this template, here's this thing, here's that thing, here's this sample, right? I might mix and match down in this section. All of that's fine. This is just one example. You can start with a direct offer. Hey, it can help you get 20% more subscribers to your website, some sort of proof of that, and then your call to action. Is that worth discussing, right? Say no risk reversal in this example. If that doesn't work, maybe you follow up with the risk reversal version of that offer. Hey, I can help you do this, and if I do, when I do, just pay me $500, right? Or I bet you $500 I can help. I can get you 20% more subscribers to your website. You want to see how? So you can do the risk reversal, right? You could start here just as easily. That's totally fine. Like, I like starting with a risk reversal, even if I'm doing a direct offer. Then you might move down to the value vehicle. So it's like you've made this direct offer, some version of it 2 times, and then instead of essentially pushing for the call, the thing that makes these the same is the next logical step is the phone call, even if it's not your CTA. It's the most valuable next step. With a value vehicle, the next step is not the phone call. So you're moving down sort of the hierarchy of commitment. So then you move to the value vehicle. So in this case, it might be, I shot a video on 6 optimizations you can make to get more subscribers, 20% plus more subscribers. Do you want to see it? Right? Should I send it over? Right? You might follow up with this several times. You might then even send the video. That's sort of an unsolicited sample. It doesn't really matter what you call these things. It doesn't matter what category they fall into. Obviously, these things can overlap. But you might ask them if they want the video, then you might just send it over, right? Then you might do a Goodwill gig and pitch the idea, right? I updated the copy for your whatever opt-in section. You'd probably want to be more specific in the sidebar, in the hero section, in your footer, wherever it is, on your landing page. Mind if I send over, right? And again, these are incomplete pitches. They aren't perfect copy. They're just sort of to show you the general, the high level, right? And then if they don't reply to this, you might follow up asking again, hey, is this not of interest? And you might just send it over. Hey, here's the updated copy I wrote for you. Let me know if it doesn't increase your conversions, right? Or maybe some sort of risk reversal. If you try it and it doesn't work, I'll send you $100, right? You can mix and match these ideas. You could even add a reverse consultation in here. It's like, hey, can I buy 15 minutes of your time? It's like, I know I can do this for you. I understand that you're resistant to cold emails. That's cool. Okay, too wordy, but you get the point. You could add in a reverse consultation if that's something that you're comfortable doing. You don't have to do that. And then the question is, well, what happens if this doesn't work at all? Well, then I would probably repeat the campaign to a different person at the organization. But at the same time, you might also continue reaching out to this individual with a different offer. You might say, okay, I emailed them 5 times or 10 times with additional follow-up messages. This particular hook isn't working, isn't resonating with this individual. It might be the hook, it might be the timing, it might be something else. But in any case, this isn't the thing that they're interested in. Well, now I'm going to come up with a different hook. Okay, maybe it's not subscribers from their website that they're interested in. It could be something else. Website conversions. Can you help with their site speed? Can you help with their checkout process? Can you help with their abandoned cart process, or some other part of the puzzle relevant to your service? Right? I don't know what it is for you. It could be anything under the sun. But after a certain number of attempts with this angle, I'm going to switch angles. And I admittedly do this more on feel. When I feel like I have something, when I'm still being relevant and interesting, I'll repeat the same angle. If you want a rule to follow or a guideline, then I would say these 5 messages plus 2, 3, or 4 follow-ups. Like you might follow up with this and just send the video, right? You might follow up with this a couple of times, and now you're at 8 messages. You could probably push it to 10, but I wouldn't probably do more than that, because at that point, assuming your deliverability is good and your emails are getting opened, then the pitch just isn't resonating. So I would switch it up. So hopefully that gives you some ideas that you can use to not just do outreach the first time, but continue following up with an individual so they finally reply to you at some point. And let's just say that for each of these messages, there's 1 follow-up on average. I mean, maybe there's no follow-up here, but there are 2 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Whatever it is, 10 messages in total. Those I would probably send out roughly over the course of 4 to 6 weeks, like with just a couple of days in between the first 2 to 3, but with more time in between the other ones. So if you think about let's call it a 10 email sequence, that's probably, 30 days is probably actually too little. It's probably going to be somewhere around 45 days. So that, like, if you come up with 1 angle here, that can turn into quite a good number of outreach messages, actually. And that's another reason to focus on this approach versus reaching out to more people, is because it's just more time and energy efficient. Right? You do the work once, you come up with variations. Like this is all variations on a theme, and if you're making this pitch, you probably already have the ideas for the rest of this. Now, again, I'm assuming in this particular context, you're doing one-to-one outreach as opposed to one-to-many. If it's one-to-many, then you do have to make certain modifications, but the general principles still apply. Like, okay, if it's one-to-many, you don't already have probably copy for everyone that you're reaching out to. Okay, fine. This would have to be more of a case study than a personalized video, right? but all of the underlying principles still apply, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many. And again, there are great time efficiencies to be had by focusing on more outreach to a smaller group versus less outreach to a bigger group. There are going to be exceptions probably with agencies and bigger businesses and when you work at insane degrees of scale, but when we're talking freelance or when we're talking small agency, this is my preferred approach. So give it a shot, let me know how it goes for you, and I will see you in another video soon.